Okay, so since we are we were already talking about Everton and Tottenham and their brilliant beginning of season form, uh, do you think there is a possibility that these two arrive as dark horses for the Premiership title this season? That might be quite a premature question to ask, but since we have nothing better to do right now, why not? Let's say.
I think, look, both of them are Premier League winners in their own right. I mean, both winners with Chelsea, of course. But at both junctures, they had two fantastic squads at their disposal. I think Tottenham have a better squad overall than Everton. I think Everton have a great first 11, but if I look at both their benches, I think Tottenham has a better bench at least. So I don't think they have the out and out quality man for man to be Premier League champions. To be very honest, I think both will be really challenging more for top four than really Premier League. I think Tottenham might make a good run for it, but if you look at man for man, I look at the back four of Tottenham and Sanchez and Eric Dyer. It doesn't seem like a Premier League winning defense, does it? I mean, they have bought Doherty and they have now Regulon at left back. Yet it doesn't really call you and tell you. Although you can say कि Leicester won the league with
West
Robert Huth
Morgan and
and
Robert.
West Brom with Morgan. So stranger things have happened. But I just think with the quality all around, it will take some real collapse on on the other team's part to really see any of these two
And we have
kind of
already
take it off.
seen the makings of that collapse you're talking
Yeah, but I don't know how consistently that collapse is going to happen. I
about.
mean,
But
we would love to
let
see.
me try and convince you here. First about
Yeah,
Tottenham. Yeah. So we have a certain Gareth Bale back in back at
who
Tottenham.
won't start till November?
Won't? I'm
Who
sorry.
won't start till or play till November?
Okay. True that. But what do you think of an attacking trio of Bale, Son, and Kane? And we have been talking about squad depth and the busy season coming ahead. What if they actually manage to stay not injured for this season? And we have always known Tottenham to be uh, a title challengers side. I mean, over the past decade at least. I mean, they have had a very good and balanced side, and at on occasions they've even come very close to staking a claim for the Premiership title. So, what if this is their year? Harry Kane is always kind of injured around the December January period, and that is where they kind of lose their bearings as far as the season is concerned. But what if that doesn't happen this time? And what if Bale, takes to the Premier League like he had left it? And what if it's a brilliant partnership between the three? And as far as as far as flailing defenses are concerned, I mean, as Chelsea fans, we came fourth with the defense that we had last season, along with Kepa. I mean, so what if they have a better attack than a defense, and they just manage to get there in the end?
See, I think they'll score a lot of goals. I have no doubts about it.
They
I
already are.
mean, Harry, yeah, Harry Kane seems to have a more all-rounded, well-rounded game right now, where he's more the creator than just the outright goal scorer as such. So that really is helping the balance of the team right now. So even if Bale comes along, I think they will be an attacking force. I have no doubts about it. And even the midfield is quite a Mourinho midfield, in the way there are some real battle horses there in the form of um, you have Endomble, you have I keep forgetting the guy, the tall
Højbjerg.
guy.
Højbjerg.
Sorry,
Højbjerg.
Javier is. Javier had a, absolutely, although Javier had a great game last week, but I wasn't talking about Javier. Um, Forget it. When it comes, it comes. But yeah, that midfield is a very workman-like midfield with Ndomble bringing some creativity to it, and Harry Kane seems to be now taking on more creative responsibilities as well. So I don't think goal scoring will be an issue for that team, but when I look at the back, I'm not too sure they will always keep the opposition out all the time. I think with that defense, you always have a chance, and in the long run, I have this feeling that that will probably cost them a title charge as such.
But not to forget also about Mourinho, the Mourinho factor. Like,
Yeah.
it's his second season, and this seems like a very different Mourinho, from the one we know. Like we know him as a flamboyant, loud, uh, always excited.
Don't fall for it, my friend. Don't fall for the facade. He is the same Mourinho.
No,
He
no, but
knows his
but
trick.
we know his facades as well, right? We have seen his facades through the years as well. I mean, there's been a lot of him all over media and all over Twitter handles over the years. But this Mourinho actually seems different. He's less brash. He is. I wouldn't call him humble. I mean, I'm a big Mourinho fan myself to go to the length of calling him humble. But yeah, he seems calmer. He seems full of purpose, and he actually kind of reminds me of, when he no, he doesn't. When he first came to Chelsea, he doesn't. It seems very different. I mean, it feels different. It sounds different.
But
Him
it is for
giving
a
Lampard
reason,
coaching tips and all. I mean, that's not really the Mourinho that we know of. So
I
what
think
if he has turned a new chapter in his life. I mean, as like you were talking a lot about the failings of the Tottenham defense, but we have to take into account that this is the same Mourinho who took a certain unknown Porto to Champions League, like summit.
yeah, but that Porto team had Ricardo Carvalho and Paulo Ferreira and
Right,
other
but
stalwarts
that's
behind.
that's that's what I'm talking about. Before they came to Chelsea, before they actually won that Champions League that we're talking about, 2004, nobody knew Paulo Ferreira, who had come from Vitoria Guimarães, or Ricardo Carvalho, or anyone for that matter. The Nuno
Yeah,
Valentes, the
but people do know Eric Dyer and Sanchez. People have seen them for a long time. And like, if you keep looking at the defenses of teams like, United or even Tottenham for that matter, they are good, but are they a championship winning defense? I think not. And that's where my, doubts over them really going all the way and winning the Premier League comes. I just don't think they have you know, the stuff at the back to really pull it through all this. But you never know. And to talk about Mourinho, and you talk about him being, slightly calmer and more humble. Now, one thing is Spurs are not the most fancied or the biggest team in the world. You have to understand that because Mourinho has always been at a big club. He doesn't know any other way except for maybe Porto, but even Porto was the biggest club in Portugal, along with Benfica and Sporting Lisbon maybe, but they enjoy a good, spotlight as well. So Mourinho is slightly away from that really high profile first rate club as such. Saying that, having said that, Tottenham are a great club. I mean, they have a great squad, great stadium, and finally, there seems to be a little bit of ambition also creeping in the system as well. And to talk about Mourinho not creeping and not doing the old tricks as such, if you remember the first game, and if you remember what happened after that, Mourinho was complaining. Okay, Mourinho was downplaying his team again, and what happened after that? They got Bale, they got Regulon, they got more players, and suddenly they look like a different team. So Mourinho hasn't really changed. Mourinho has just changed his methods. He now knows how to manipulate Daniel Levy. And kudos to him. He has managed to find money out of one of the most stingiest men in football that we know right now. So yeah, he'll do well. I think this season Mourinho will do quite well, and he'll wind up quite a few people on the way. And talking about Mourinho, now let's talk about another former manager, Chelsea manager.
Carlo
Ancelotti
Ancelotti.
has had a brilliant season right now. But I mean, yes, we are just 4 games in, but he has suddenly changed the whole, the way people look at Everton these days. And, earlier, the way Everton was always the side spending tons of money and going nowhere. And suddenly, Ancelotti arrives with a slightly, a reputation which was strangely under question because, the last two stints at Bayern and Napoli hadn't been great, and there was news of him falling out with players at Napoli. But he has again really started the way you expected Carlo Ancelotti to. I mean, just a brilliant coach.
No, Carlo Ancelotti, yes, but let's first talk about the Everton team. And when we talk about the team over the past few weeks, and right after his debut goal in an England shirt as well, I want to
Yeah.
speak more about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. What do you think of the player? I mean, it's like he's a new man this season. I mean, there are talks of comparison between him and Filippo Inzaghi, and how Ancelotti wants him to be his Inzaghi and all. And he has been brilliant over the first few game weeks, with a hat
Right.
trick as well, and almost goals in all the games he's played in till now. What do you think of him? I mean, is he the kind of striker that can actually, carry a team like Everton on his shoulders?
Um, I think physically he's a very good Premier League striker. I mean, if you look at his physique and Harry Kane's physique, there are similarities as such. Both are not the most bulkiest, like the Hulk maybe, or maybe what a Drogba was, but they are physical boys, and they both can finish. I think Harry Kane is the better finisher, but Harry Kane is older, of course, and has more Premier League pedigree and experience behind him. But Calvert-Lewin has really begun well, and last season also Ancelotti has a lot of trust in this young man, more than probably the likes of Richarlison, who is also a very rough diamond as such. Scores a lot of goals, makes a lot of goals as well. But sorry about that. I think we have to give some credit to the arrival of James and what effect it has had on the whole club as a whole. I mean, suddenly you see this absolute, golden boy of the 2014 World Cup come from Real Madrid to your shores, Everton, of all the places. And I'm sure it has given the whole Everton side, the club, a huge lift. I mean, we remember when the first set of superstars were coming to Chelsea after the Roman Abramovich takeover and what it made the club and the whole supporters feel like, and even the team. So I'm sure Calvert Lewin is looking at James and going, man, he will create a ton of chances for me. And
He
I
is.
have the chance. Yeah, and he is. And he has the chance to, really cement his place in the England side because there is so much competition already. There's Tammy Abraham at Chelsea, Harry Kane is still the number one, Jamie Vardy is
Harry
ripping it
Kane.
up at Leicester, Danny Ings at Southampton. So yeah, I mean England have some really good strikers up front to choose from, and let's see if Southgate has the you know tactical know-how to really get the best out of them.
But very important, talking about James Rodriguez and his impact over the first few game weeks. I mean, he hasn't really been out of sight for any football fan over the past few years. I mean, though he has been a little low profile, I mean, lower profile than can be attributed to him over his loan stints at Bayern and, his secondary roles at Real Madrid. But, in the beginning of the season, when there were talks of him joining Everton, do you think anyone who knew the Premier League could have predicted that he would have turned out so well?
I think people would still have had questions because he simply hadn't played as much. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes at Real with him and Zidane, because I I rate him quite a bit. I think he's a very old school, playmaker who can score goals and creates a ton of chances for the forward players. So any side would want to have that dimension to them, to their attack, that can really open up tight defenses. So I was really surprised that Zidane wasn't playing him that often and they let him go so easily. Having said that, I mean, I expected him to take a little time, but he has just hit the ground running and seems like he has played in the side for a while. Of course,
Certainly.
Ancelotti's presence probably makes it slightly easier because he has played under him before. So I just
I
think he's
totally
happy playing again. He seems very happy playing regularly again, and all the best to him, man. Just makes for a more interesting Premier League overall.
sure, sure. And he finally has found a team. I mean, maybe it's too early to say, but it seems like he has finally found a team who values him as highly as he deserves to be valued. I mean, at Real Madrid, he was maybe just one of the many stars that they have there. And maybe this is one team that actually can be built around him as a focal point. So yeah, a lot of talk about James, and rightfully so, because he has been grabbing all the headlines over the past few game weeks with his assists and brilliant game playing from midfield. But there were a couple of other signings in that midfield as well. I mean, particularly Alan from Napoli, who I think has kind of revolutionized their defensive midfield position, and again has taken very quickly to the demands of the Premier League. And I think it was Allen who gave them that support from the base of midfield, which allowed James and other attack-minded players to move forward and score all those goals for Everton that they have scored. Also, to speak of another new signing in that midfield, Abdoulaye Doucouré, who does a bit of both. I mean, he falls back, he goes forward, and he has proved to be the perfect, partner for James in the midfield. And again, I mean, I think all these three signings bedding so well went a long way into making Everton the feared side at the beginning of 2020 that it is. What do you think about Alan and Doucouré, and their influence over the first few game weeks?
I think Allen has started the better of the two. I think Dokore is still finding his way in the team slightly more, or maybe just that James and Allen have started so well that you're expecting a bit more out of Dokore, not his fault. But yeah, Allen seems to be the calming influence in the midfield now. The defense looks a lot more structured and more focused now with Allen kind of passing instructions and leading the line. But I think where Everton might come short is the goalkeeper. I don't think Pickford is, Pickford, when he started off at Sunderland, he seemed that young raw keeper who would really go on to do better things. But I think over the years, it has just been very average for Pickford. And I don't think he's the keeper who incites a lot of confidence in his defense. We have already seen a lot of mistakes by him in the season already. But I think Pickford will cost Everton a lot of points over the course of the season. And we
But I
have
think
seen, like,
I
yeah,
think I think
you
because of that, they have also gotten Robin Olsen to provide competition to Pickford.
yeah, but
Yeah, the goalkeeping situation is a problem for them. I mean, even Ancelotti knows that, and he has made his feelings clear to the chairman as well,
yeah,
which is why the incoming Robin Olsen. You talked a lot about the feelings of the Tottenham defense. Now that we are talking about Everton, what do you think of the central defensive pairing of Michael Keane and Yerry Mina? Do you think they have it in them to go a long, good Premiership season?
I think both of them are a little too young and inexperienced to kind of see the whole season through. without conceding a lot of goals. I mean, Michael Keane didn't have the greatest of seasons last year. I still think he's a good centre back, but I don't think he's a top of the line centre back as such. But if you look at the likes of Gary Cahill, you never really thought they could win as much as they actually did. And sometimes players do push themselves to, reach greater heights than what their potential might be. But I think Yeremina looked a little nervous at times and doesn't really have that same presence as you would want in a Premier League title winning defense as such. So I think they would do well, but I don't think they have it in them to really push for a title challenge as a defensive pairing as such.
But what about the recent acquisition, Ben Godfrey? I mean, they got him as a last-ditch effort this last transfer window. He was obviously brought in as a defensive reinforcement. Do you think he can make the defense better?
To be honest, I haven't seen enough of Ben Godfrey to pass a judgment as such. I mean, we have only seen Keane and Mina start most of Everton's games this season, with Digne at left back and Coleman at right back. Coleman and Digne are decent fullbacks, but they are also Coleman is coming to the twilight of his career, and there will be games when more pacey players will find him lacking in covering up certain spaces. So overall, I don't think Everton are there yet. You don't know what they might do in January. I mean, Ancelotti seems to have this pulling power of getting the players that he wants. I mean, getting James for almost free is insane. I mean,
Steel.
that's a master stroke, quite frankly. So I don't think either of these sides are quite there yet to win the Premier League, to be honest. I mean, they will probably have a great crack at top four, and if not both, at least one of them might sneak in. But I don't think they are there yet for a title challenge.
A lot being spoken about, like these ace managers. We talked about Mourinho, we talked about Ancelotti, and earlier today we talked about Marcelo Bielsa as well. So all of them, renowned professionals as managers of football teams, and they have had their own track record of success. Do you think their tactical acumen are going to make inroads into the existing structure of the Premier League this season? Because until now, that has been the case.
I think
For example, what I'm talking about was Pep Guardiola or a Jurgen Klopp looking almost unbeatable in the past seasons. But we talked about Marcelo Bielsa, facing them both in the beginning of the season. I mean, we might argue that maybe he was able to catch them before they were completely prepared. But he has, in his own way and in his own terms, kind of succeeded in upsetting them both. So, are we seeing Klopp's and Guardiola's tactics read well by these ace managers, and are we going to see something different as a result? What do you think?
both Klopp and Guardiola, they have taken their time in becoming these outfits with great tactical know-how and a particular style of play. Yes, I think more teams will challenge that style of play this year. And now that we come to think of it, it's Mourinho's second year with this side, and it's almost Ancelotti's second year with his side as well. So they have had more time to spend with these teams and bring in their own tactical systems in play. So yeah, I think their systems will be more sturdy and better equipped this year. They will probably have a more consistent run. And yes, I think the games between the top 8 or 10 teams will be much closer than they were last year. I mean, most of these games, at least with Liverpool, it was pretty one-sided. But I don't think that will be the case this year. I think there will be a lot more surprises coming from the likes of Ancelotti and Mourinho.
So, looking at all these managers, we also have a new wave of past players managing their old clubs. I mean, not only in England, but in, almost all over the world, with Pirlo and Zidane also managing their past sides. So, how do you think, these player turned coaches fare against these tactical war horses? I mean, how do you see an Ole or a Frank Lampard actually fighting up against the the all-knowing Ancelotti and the all-winning Mourinho, uh, or
I
even
think you
Bielsa
have
for
put
that
a
matter?
I think you have put a great teaser for our next topic, which is our Premier League predictions. I mean, I think it's a perfect way to get onto that note where rookie managers stack up to absolute champions in the Premier League. So I think we'll skip this question particularly to that podcast and talk about more in detail there. So I think this one we should end it here.
Okay, okay, that was a good conversation again, and it's always a delight talking to you.